Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nasta Prayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Hare Krishna. This morning we're going to complete the first chapter of the first canto. Just wondering, the lights are off. Can someone enlighten the room for us? The other one. There we go. Okay. So this is completion of this first introductory chapter, which is called what? What is the name of the first chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam? Questions by the Sages. Questions by the Sages. So we spent a day each on the first verse, second and third verse, I believe. So what is the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam about, in one word? Krishna. And then the second verse? In a word? Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam. And then the third verse in a phrase. How to study Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna, Bhagavatam, and then how to study Bhagavatam. And so then the interim verses between those and verse 9 where we start today deal with setting the scene. These sages are at this great place of sacrifice. And Suta Goswami has been appointed their leader, so they're asking Suta these questions. So the 14 verses contain the 6 questions asked by the sages that form the basis of the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. So they are foundational to understanding this text. However, the questions are some of them are a little hard to spot, so we'll go through them this morning. So could we pass around the mics to take turns reading each of these 15 verses or 14 verses? Vishnu, would you like to start?
Please, therefore, being blessed with many years, explain to us in an easily understandable way what you have ascertained to be the absolute and ultimate good for the people in general.
All right, question number 1. A very gracious question. Huh? What is the absolute and ultimate good for people in general? So it's a very comprehensive question here.
O learned one, in this iron age of Kali, men almost always have but short lives. They are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed.
Women, on the other hand,
There are many varieties of scriptures, and in all of them there are many prescribed duties, which can be learned only after many years of study in their various divisions. Therefore, O sage, please select the essence of all these scriptures and explain it for the good of all living beings, that by such instruction their hearts may be fully satisfied.
Okay, this is question number 2. What is the essence of all scriptures? Because there's so many to read. And people have short lives and aren't very intelligent in this age. So what's the essential part?
All blessings upon you, O Suta Goswami. You know for what purpose the personality of Godhead appeared in the womb of Devaki as the son of Vasudeva.
Okay, so this is indirectly a question. Yeah. Why, in other words, does Krishna come? You know this, right? You have that list, no?
She just has mentioned which Krishna is in her list.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know. So verse 12 is on the list, right?
Verse 12 is the list.
Okay, so you said these are a little ambiguous, but just the essential question here is why has Krishna come? Okay, next.
O Suta Goswami, we are eager to learn about the personality of Godhead and his incarnations. Please explain to us those teachings imparted by previous masters, acharyas, for one is uplifted both by speaking them and by hearing them.
Next, please.
Many beings who are entangled in the complicated meshes of birth and death can be freed immediately by even unconsciously chanting the holy name of Krishna, which is feared by feared persona.
This is not one of the questions, but it is the topic of our discussion today. Okay, thank you. Next.
O Suta, those great sages who have completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord can at once sanctify those who come in touch with them, whereas the waters of the Ganges can sanctify only after prolonged use.
So you get this. To be with a saintly person, even for a moment, can immediately sanctify, whereas bathing in the holy river takes many, many tries.
Who is there desiring deliverance from the vices of the age of quarrel? Who is not willing to hear the virtuous glories of the Lord?
Okay, although this has a question mark, it's not one of the 6 questions. It is, as they call, a rhetorical question. Who would not be willing to hear about Krishna? Well, the answer is just about everybody, but, but for some fortunate souls.
His transcendental acts are magnificent and
Gracious.
gracious, and great learned sages like Narad sing of them. Please therefore speak to us, who are eager to hear about the adventures he performs in his various incarnations.
Right, so this is question number 4. What are Krishna's pastimes?
O wise Suta, please narrate. Oh, okay.
For those in the back row, this is like an eye test, you know?
O wise Suta, please narrate to us the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Godhead's multi-incarnation. Such auspicious adventures and pastimes of the Lord, the Supreme Controller, are performed by his internal powers.
So this is a question, so tell us about Krishna's incarnations, which is a subject of extensive discussion in the course of the Bhagavatam.
We never tire of hearing the transcendental pastimes of the personality of Godhead, who is glorified by hymns and prayers. Those who have developed a taste for transcendental relationships with him relish hearing of his pastimes at every moment.
Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, along with Balaram, played like a human being. In some mass he performed many superhuman acts.
Knowing well that the age of Kali has already begun, we are assembled here in this holy place to hear at great length the transcendental message of Godhead, and in this way perform sacrifice.
We think that we have met your goodness by the will of providence, just so that we may accept you as captain of the ship for those who desire to cross the difficult ocean of Kali, which deteriorates all the good qualities of the human being.
This is a very famous verse, glorification of the spiritual master. And finally, the last question, number 6, John.
Since Sri Krishna, the absolute truth, the master of all mystic powers, has departed for his own abode, please tell us to whom these religious principles have now gone for shelter.
Okay, question number 6. Okay, so question number 1, a little quick review. What was the first one? Let's see, that's a comprehensive question. What is the absolute and ultimate good for everyone? Question number 2. What is the essence of all scriptures? Question number 3. Yes, why does Krishna come? Question number 4. Yes, what are Krishna's pastimes? Question number 5. Tell us about his incarnations. And question number 6. Right, now that Krishna is gone, where did the religious principle, what's going to happen to religious principles? So, yeah. That's 4 of them. The conference here is taking place, this convention of sages is taking place just after Krishna has left the planet. So therefore they're asking this very critical question. Now Krishna is gone, what's going to happen? But they also want to hear about Krishna and his pastimes because they enjoy it so much. So the verse number 14 here is not directly related to this list of questions, but it is, again, a very beautiful and important verse from this chapter. So let's read this in some detail. Apana samsritam goram yang nama vivashogrinan tatak sadyo vimuchyeta yad vibheti swayam bhayam apanak samsritim goram yang nama vivashogrinan tatak sadyo vimuchyeta yad vibheti swayam bhayam. Please chant.
Apana samsritim goram.
Apana samsritim goram. Yanama vivashogrinan. Tata sadyo vimuchyeta. Tat viveti swayam bhayam. Apana samsritim goram. Yanama vivashogrinan. Sadyo vimuchyeta. Tad viveti swayam bhayam. Apana samsritim goram. Yanama vivashogrinan. Tatak sadyo vimuchyeta. Yad viveti swayam bhayam. Synonyms together, please. Apana, being entangled, samsritim, in the hurdle of birth and death, horam, too complicated, yat, what, nama, what, vivasha, unconsciously, none, chanting, Tata, from that, sadya, at once, vimuchyeta, gets freedom, yat, that which, viveti, fears, swayam, personally, bhayam, fear itself. In translation together. Living beings who are entangled in the complicated meshes of birth and death can be freed immediately by even unconsciously chanting the holy name of Krishna, which is feared by fear personified. Who would like to read this short purport? Whoever's got a mic, go right ahead.
Vasudeva, or Lord Krishna, the absolute personality of Godhead, is the supreme controller of everything. There is no one in creation who is not afraid of the rage of the Almighty. Great asuras like Ravana, Hiranyakashipu, Kamsa, and others, who were very powerful living entities, were all killed by the personality of Godhead. And the Almighty Vasudeva has empowered his name with the powers of his personal self. Everything is related to him, and everything has its identity in him. It is stated herein that the name of Krishna is feared even by fear personified. This indicates that the name of Krishna is non-different from Krishna. Therefore, the name of Krishna is as powerful as Lord Krishna himself. There is no difference at all. Anyone therefore can take advantage of the holy names of Lord Shri Krishna even in the midst of the greatest dangers. The transcendental name of Krishna, even though uttered unconsciously or by force of circumstances, can help one obtain freedom from the hurdle of birth and death.
This is a great verse to memorize, especially for those who get sleepy during japa sometimes, even unconsciously. So there's a nice acronym for fear. Anyone know this? FEAR? False evidence appearing real, right? Or false expectations appearing real. You notice the animals. Animals are also spirit souls, but trapped in a lower condition of life. They don't have the flexibility of intelligence that human beings do. And what is the quality of all animals? They're always afraid, isn't it? Always afraid. Look at the birdies out on the, looking around. Anxiety, fear, that's the curse of the animal kingdom. Always in anxiety, always fearful, always concerned with self-preservation. And so the human beings also have this fearing propensity. It's also sometimes called the defending propensity. Nidrahara, Maitunya, Bhayam. These four things that human beings have in common with animals. Nidra, sleeping, Maitunya, mating, ahara, eating, and bhayam, fearing. Therefore, human beings on the animal platform of life also suffer from nonstop fear and anxiety. A couple of years back, we had a meeting with all the chaplains at the University of Florida Religious Centers and the director of the Wellness Center at the university, the counseling center. And she was saying how in the last 2 years, and this was before COVID, she said the last 2 years, the caseloads for the counselors have got to a point where they can no longer spend time with the students. They can only prescribe medicine and can keep up with the medications. The anxiety level, the stress levels have like doubled. The suicide calls have tripled. And therefore they really no longer could talk. They can no longer administer they call cognitive therapy or just talk therapy. They could only give medication doses. The demand was so high. So Kali Yuga is characterized, this age of quarrel is characterized by anxiety, as we read in that verse earlier. In the Iron Age of Kali, men are always disturbed. Everyone is always disturbed. Now, in this verse, can you show the translation again, please? Yes, please meditate on this very deep meaning here. Those who are entangled in the complicated meshes of birth and death can be freed immediately by even unconsciously chanting the holy name of Krishna, which is feared by fear personified. The holy name of Krishna, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, Krishna has invested his entire potency in the name. In the material world, the name and the thing are different. Just to say orange juice does not bring you the fulfillment of drinking orange juice. Just to say someone's name, your beloved, does not bring you the fulfillment of being with your beloved. But in absolute platform, the name of Krishna is not different from Krishna. Once a disciple asked Srila Prabhupada, or made the statement, Krishna is fully present in his name. And Srila Prabhupada corrected him. He said, oh, where in his name is Krishna? It's not that they are different. Krishna's over here and his name's over here, but Krishna and his name are non-different. Therefore, every time we say Krishna, we are in Krishna's presence. We're always in Krishna's presence. Krishna's always with us every moment from cradle to grave. Krishna is right there as a super soul. But when we say the name of Krishna, then we are connecting with him. We are raising our awareness of him, and we are addressing him, and he is listening. To the extent that we are aware of this reality, to that extent we are freed of fear. The name has the power. Nam Nam Akarhi Bahuda needs a Sarva Shaktis. Krishna has invested all of his potencies in his name. And they're not sectarian. This is the bane of, like, at least our culture. People don't want to be associated with a religion. In fact, ours is the first generation really in human history that has not collectively passed on religious practices to its, I'm talking about my generation, I mean, maybe my parents' generation. We did not pass on a collective practice of religion to our descendants. So this is a very common phenomenon, to the point now where adherence to established religious practices is dramatically dropping. And what is dramatically increasing are the nuns, right? Not the NUNs, but the NONEs, S's. I don't have any affiliation. Funny enough, can you get the mic to embellish this point?
Just wanting you to connect it to the first thing you mentioned about the information you got from the wellness center.
Yes.
Those things are connected.
They are connected, yes. In fact, all of the chaplains, all of the religious leaders in the university organizations were all lamenting about how the attendance was diminishing and participation was diminishing. The Mormons, the Episcopalians, the Baptists, all of them were saying, yes, we have far less people now associated with our student centers than we used to. I didn't brag and say that we had more, but I did without quoting him by name, I referenced something Srila Prabhupada said. I said, well, when you're selling diamonds, you'll have very few customers. And the chairman of the group, he said, wow, that's deep. Let's reflect on that for a moment. So, yeah, it is a fact that people are able to chant the name of God according to their language and their understanding and have the same benefit. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taught us this. Nam nam makarhi bahuda nija sarva shaktis tatrarpita niyamata smarane nakala. There's no hard and fast rules for chanting, even unconsciously. And there are many, many names of God, countless names of God. Jehovah, Allah, Buddha, people chant Jesus. The process of invoking the name is what's important. Like if anyone's ever attended an AME Sunday service, yeah. Funny enough, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, there's so much bhakti in the singing and so much joy and verve and feeling, as opposed to like the more staid services that I remember from my youth. You know, and when you sit meekly and listen, and then maybe the big finale be to rise and sing a hymn out of the book. No dancing, no. Right. So anyway, the point is that people are less inclined towards spirituality than ever, especially organized spirituality. And this makes it difficult for us. One of the symptoms of Kali Yuga is nobody wants to cooperate. You know, it's always quarrel. The other day I said to someone, it's the age of quarrel. He said, what do you mean? What are you talking about? That's a joke, but anyway. People don't want to work in a cooperative way because working in a cooperative way is the mode of goodness. Being independent is like the mode of passion, lone wolf. You know, I'm just looking out for number one. And not being motivated to do anything is the mode of ignorance. But the mode of goodness means that we see others with appreciation, not only if they're Krishna conscious, but if they're not Krishna conscious, we see them as part and parcel of Krishna. Therefore, everybody reminds us of Krishna. We see Krishna everywhere and in everybody. That's the transcendental position. And this is developed through chanting, through just practicing our awareness of Krishna's eternal presence in our face that we're not seeing. Therefore, chanting invokes this awareness of the presence of the Supreme that relieves us of fear. Fear is generally a product of the mode of what? Passion. I was thinking passion. Let's put it this way. Anxiety maybe is characterized as a characteristic of the mode of passion. Why? Because we're looking ahead. We're looking ahead. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? So we're in anxiety. We're afraid. We're apprehensive. We can't sleep at night. We are worried all the time. That one of my ancestors was described as a person who would just sit under the tree worrying all day. So we all have this concern about how our desires are going to be fulfilled in the future, or how our well-being will be sustained in the future, which prohibits us from dealing with the present. And what is the present? Krishna is present. Krishna is present. But we're not thinking about Krishna, we're thinking about the future. We're not consciously aware, oh, Krishna is his plan. Krishna is in control. No, we're thinking, I got to do all these things, so I work everything out according to my plans. Yeah, Krishna's nice, but I got to make sure and take care of myself. See, there's this absence of trust in Krishna, makes him just a theoretical idea in our lives, and that isn't enough. Just to belong to the Krishna consciousness movement, like, what's your religion? Hare Krishna. Well, that's good, but it's not enough to actually help us to take advantage of being Hare Krishnas. To take advantage of being devotees means that we're constantly aware of Krishna's presence, and therefore we get relief from anxiety, not worried about the future. We know we're in Krishna's hands. Just like a little child can cross a busy street safely by knowing I'm holding my father's hand. I am. Therefore, the child has no anxiety, although it's a very dangerous situation. The child's attention is just focused on, I trust my father and my father is protecting me. That's the great benefit of Krishna consciousness. That's why we chant. It's relief from anxiety. And the mode of ignorance is characterized by looking backwards in the past. Things that cannot be changed, but we're still dwelling on them. And therefore we feel that we've fallen short, or that we're unfortunate, or somehow suffering from things that are long gone. This is another trick of the material energy. See, the mode of ignorance, mode of passion. Mode of goodness means being in the present. And like impersonalists or spiritualists, general spiritualists, recognize the value of being in the moment. Zen Buddhism is based on that. Be here now. Anyone remember Be Here Now? The few of us who read this old spiritual book. That was a big thing when I was your age in the previous millennium. And Tyler, if you're listening out there, is yeah, be here now. It's such a simple thing. That's the mode of goodness. It's true, but it's not the transcendental position. To be present in the moment, it takes mental discipline, and it does give relief of depression and anxiety. But the actual benefit of being in the mode of goodness, we're going to read about in the next chapter, chapter 2 of the first canto. Evam prasanna manaso, that when the mind is fixed in goodness, then there is an opportunity to enter the transcendental platform. The transcendental platform is not characterized by just relief of depression and anxiety. It's characterized by joy, by fulfillment, by ecstasy. As it is enriched with practice, it becomes more and more ecstatic to be in the moment with Krishna. It becomes more and more enjoyable and relishable. Like the sages are saying in this chapter, please talk about Krishna's pastimes because we love to hear about them. We love to hear about them. Once I was introduced to Krishna and his pastimes, I began to wonder, what did I ever think about God before? God was just an abstraction. God was just an idea. And you believe in it or you don't believe it. That's more or less, that was the issue for me. Am I believing? I'm not going to believe, blah, blah, And what is the handle to hold on to if you don't know his pastimes, if you don't know his name, if you don't know who he is? How it's a question of a relationship. Right? Like Marx said that religion is the opiate of the people. The opiate of the people. What is opium? Opium, is just a way to self-medicate and try to forget your depression and anxiety. Right? Alcohol, marijuana, all these things are just ways to try to escape from depression and anxiety. So Marx, the atheist, said that people are just given religion as a sort of self-medication so that they can be controlled by the plutocrats, the rich people. Right, the bourgeois, right? therefore, he said we should not take this opiate of religion. We should break the addiction and just, deal with the realities and share. And of course, it didn't work at all. Completely failed experiment. Government by the Shudras for the Shudras. What really, excuse me, really, the result of a godless society is that opium becomes the religion of the people. The shelter is in self-medication through intoxicants. That's where we get relief from our anxiety and depression. Right? And so as a result, of course, we just fall deeper and deeper into the mode of ignorance. I have a friend who was telling me, I don't know if anyone, I'm sure many of you know about this, what is it? What was that drug? OxyContin. This horrible, horrible epidemic that cost tens and thousands of lives in America. It was an opioid that was supposedly non-addictive, but in fact it was highly addictive. It was pushed and pushed by the pharmaceutical companies. And one of my friends was telling me how everyone in his family, all normal middle-class people, everyone got addicted to this OxyContin. And it was prescribed by their doctors. And it destroyed all of their lives. He and his immediate family were the only ones among all their uncles and aunts and nephews and nieces whose lives were not just destroyed by this stuff. Suicides, alcoholism, heroin addiction, all these things resulted. Could not keep jobs, poverty, divorces, incarceration. All of these ills just came from this addiction. So self-medicating is no answer. It's just religion without understanding God is also just a beginning. It's insufficient just to say I believe. Why is that? Because when we say we believe in God, but we don't have a relationship, there's not enough juice there to keep us from self-defeating behaviors. There's not enough juice, not enough joy. It's just a theoretical idea. So the name is so valuable for that reason. That's why the actual Dharma for Kali Yuga is just chanting the name of God. Any name. We're not sectarian, but just chant. And because you can't just theoretically believe and get the benefit. You have to invest the tongue and the lungs and the mind and the ears in the exercise of chanting. It's not a very difficult practice. It's easy. Anyone can do it. Srila Prabhupada said even a child can do it. Even a dog can do it, according to the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Rah, rah, rah. But unfortunately, in spite of all of this accessibility and all of this freedom from depression and anxiety, we have no taste for the chant. We have no taste. And according to the Nectar of Instruction, why do we have no taste? Amrita? Yeah, we have the disease of materialism, which is compared to jaundice. Jaundice is this infection of the liver that creates yellow eyes, eyeballs, and among its other symptoms, it causes sugar to taste horribly bitter. And yet the traditional cure for jaundice is sugar. So when one is diseased, one has to take this medication, which is actually sweet but tastes terrible. But when, after duly taking the medication, one begins to be cured, then the sweetness is again accessible. So it is with the holy name. Because of our being accustomed to enjoying our tongue, belly, genitals, mind, indulging our anger, saying anything we want, we're so accustomed to these unrestrained habits, and that's where we think enjoyment lies, that when we chant, it seems tame, it seems boring, it seems repetitive, passive, whatever it is the mind is saying. So that's our challenge. what great yogis used to have to go to the Himalayas to do and submerge themselves in freezing water in the winter and sit surrounded by fire in the heat of the summer, just all this intense austerity, when they had to do with decades of meditation, we can do immediately by just chanting attentively. That's the benefit of being in Kali Yuga. So it's an age of extremes. People are either extremely fortunate and they have this very simple information, or they're very unfortunate. The sages are asking these compassionate questions on our behalf. The first question is so striking, especially, what is the absolute and ultimate good for all people? Well, it's to know the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's the ultimate good for everybody, and therefore people who give this knowledge and share this knowledge are, according to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they're the highest welfare workers. According to the gopis also, right? In the Bhagavatam, they say those who share the message of Krishna consciousness are the greatest humanitarians. Again, I know I've told this story before, but I always remember this chaplains meeting one year after spring break. So all the chaplains were sitting around. What did you do with your students during spring break? And this group went to Haiti and helped with building houses, and this group went to Central America and helped with some medical care. And they asked me, I said, well, they went to Houston and chanted Hare Krishna. And they, oh, that's nice. They could not appreciate the humanitarian value of what we do. But what we're doing is really giving people a great gift by which they can change their life. And we're not asking a damn thing. No, just the time to chant. Just take the time and chant. That's all. There's no fee. There's no commitment. You don't have to sign. There's no catechism. Like in Catholicism, you have to sign, I believe this, I believe this, I believe that. You don't have to believe anything. Just chant, and then have the experience of chanting. Isn't it? It's such a small thing, but so few people are open-minded enough to even try it. That's the power of materialism in this age. So Krishna says in the Gita that 4 kinds of people come to him. Do you know these, Gayatri? You're nodding your head. You remember? Who can remember 4 kinds of people? Jonathan?
Those that are curious.
Curious.
Those that are in distress.
Those who are distressed.
Those who seek knowledge.
The wise, and?
And I don't remember the last.
Those who are in need of money. These 4 types of people turn to God. Like John Lennon said, God is the concept by which we measure our pain. Yeah? You remember this? God is a concept by which we measure our pain. What does he mean by that? He means like, if you stub your toe, you say, oh God. If you get a cancer diagnosis, you say, oh God. So according to the degree of pain, you invoke the name of God. But in fact, curious, broke, wise, or distressed people will come to God for whatever motivation. And it really doesn't matter what is the motivation. It doesn't matter. Krishna is willing and ready to accept everybody. He does say that if you come out of wisdom, that's special. But it really doesn't matter what is our motivation. So our motivation to come to Krishna is individual, and it's this, each person has their own story. That's why, like in Back to Godhead magazine, they have a category of articles called HICs, How I Came. They're always fascinating to read, the journeys that people take that bring them to the holy name. And I encourage everyone to write one, whether it's published or not. Write your story, because it is unique and reflective of your own journey in spiritual life. But the point is that when we come to the point of the holy name, we have nothing to fear. To the degree that we are hearing, that we're connecting with Krishna, there's nothing to fear. There's no worry for the future. There's no lamentation about the past. There is great joy in the present moment. That is when we are really getting the benefit that is given to us by the sages at Naimisharanya. All right, Hare Krishna. We have 6 questions. Any more questions? Govinda?
Topic of the holy name. I was wondering, since most of us have only been chanting for only so little, but in your personal experience, you've been chanting for 50 years. Is there anything you could share with us that could motivate us as you've done it for 50 years?
I would say the first 10 years, it was just practice. Okay. First 10 years, it was like, okay, I'm applying myself to this process. And there wasn't a lot of taste always, sometimes, but not regularly, just commitment. And then and after I was no longer a brahmachari, then it became desperation. Because that transition to family life comes with a great deal of stress. So it is more like taking shelter of the name out of stress. Okay? And then after some years of chanting out of distress, this is me personally, it sort of became embodied in my DNA in the sense that it was just like eating or drinking or breathing and chanting. So that's how it is for me now. If I don't chant, it really affects me. So therefore, I just chant every day, and it's just part of my life. But the one thing that has been constant through these various degrees or these various layers is that whenever I chant, when I'm finished, I feel better than I did when I started. That I realized from the beginning. So, and it's still like that. So now I'm sort of addicted to that experience. I wake up in whatever mode, and then when I'm finished chanting, I just feel ready I feel inspired. Is that all right? Christina, you had a question?
There was a phrase in the purport that stuck out to me is something about everyone is there's no one in creation at the top. Yeah, go up. There's no one in creation who is not afraid of the rage of the Almighty.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering if you could explain that a little bit. Like, what is the rage of the Almighty? Does that mean like we should be afraid? Is it like other people, or what's going on?
Right. I believe the point Prabhupada is making is that even very powerful atheists are ultimately afraid of God. And there's a saying from World War I, there are no atheists in foxholes. Right. So when we are in extreme danger, there's a natural inclination to turn to God. But even if we have everything lined up like Hiranyakashipu or Ravana, and to the point, see, they knew that Vishnu was God. They knew that, but they didn't want to accept it. And so they're thinking, what can I do to set things up so that I'm the most powerful? I don't have to be in second position to Vishnu. So this is the consciousness of the atheist from chapter 16 of the Gita. Ishwaraham, aham bogi, samsidhim, balamam sukhi. I'm the controller. I am perfect. I am powerful. I am happy. See, this is the demon's consciousness, but it always falls short. Therefore, Prabhupada is saying no one in creation is not afraid of God's wrath. So what does it mean for devotees? I think, is that your question, right? Should we be afraid of God's wrath? This is what again relates back to Marx, the opiate of the people. People are controlled by fear, and the fear of God is instilled in you by your religion. So we say in this country that if somebody's being eulogized as a God-fearing person, that is not Krishna consciousness. So fearing God is not sufficient motivation to get us to chant any more than fearing somebody is a motivation to love them. It's like sometimes in abusive marriages, an abusive husband may try to dominate the wife and make her afraid and therefore obedient. But there's no love in that relationship. So fear is not an incentive for love. At the same time, the pain of being separated from Krishna, that we can be afraid of. And what is that pain? It's this world that we're in. That's worth being at least skeptical, if not afraid of. I don't want to invest my energies in this world because I'm afraid that they'll just end up being frustrated. So we can be afraid of Maya. Srila Prabhupada said that was our disease in the West, that we're not sufficiently afraid of illusion. And what is Maya? Maya is one of Krishna's energies. So in that respect, we are afraid of Krishna. But just like a good citizen is afraid of the jail. No, let me rephrase that. A criminal is afraid of the jail. A good citizen is not.
Thank you for that. Yeah, for me, coming from Christianity, the idea of a wrathful God, like a jealous God, a wrathful God, was something that I didn't really like. And then when I found Bhagavad Gita and I found that Krishna is actually, he does not sound very wrathful, actually he sounds very nice. And sometimes he's very funny. That was like much more appealing to me. So yeah, so it's just this like, so I just want to kind of confirm that that does not mean that Krishna is wrathful.
Right, thank you. Yes, that's very good. Someone's alarm went off. That means it's time to wake up for breakfast, I guess. His alarm is set for 8:30. Yeah, this is a really important point. At the same time, Krishna can scare the hell out of you, like in chapter 11 in the Gita, right? He made Arjuna Arjuna wanted to see his material energy in its full splendor. So Krishna said, all right. But then Arjuna became very frightened of it. And then Krishna did not like that. So then he said, no, here I am again in my two-handed form. Don't worry. Krishna does not want us to be afraid. He wants our love. All right, anything else? Jonathan?
Speaking on the how I came to Krishna consciousness stories, I began reading the Rap of God, and like your beginning of your stories in it, it just says you were on a farm and then like jumped on a truck and then and I was like, well, how did he meet devotees? So I'm just wondering where, I'm sure you have that story logged in somewhere.
In short, I was just a seeker out on a quest to find God and met devotees and moved in the ashram. That was pretty much it.
So where's the long version at?
I was 18 and I went out hitchhiking instead of going to college. I went to hitchhike and find God, and then ended up working on a tomato farm in California, trying to be here now. It wasn't working. Yeah, and then when I got to Portland, Oregon, I ran into the Harinam party. So then I thought, here's some people who are walking the talk. Anything else? Please, be here now.
I never really liked that all that much in a way, but there's something in your books that puts it all into perspective. Learn from the past and prepare for the future by being thoughtful in the present. That I like.
Learn from the past to prepare for the future by being thoughtful in the present. That's definitely a mode of goodness mantra for sure. Okay, anything else? Nate?
Hare Krishna. Okay. I was wondering if you could clarify. It said, like, chanting unattentively is like, you'll still get to the Lord, but it's an offense to chant unattentively, and I thought offenses take you away from the Lord, so I just want some, like, clarity on that.
Right, good question. The name is absolute, so even if it's chanted inappropriately or inattentively, it still has benefit. The problem is that we will, because of the offense, we will not be able to make that connection with Krishna. So it's that powerful, but we are not that powerful. We can take advantage of the name to the point where we can continue chanting, but as we continue chanting, we have to become better at it. And because Krishna is not so cheap, that's the point. All the power is there, but do we take advantage of it? See, just for example, like any degree you want is available at the University of Florida. So the power is there, the potential is there. But if we are not attentive in our classes, then are we going to get the degree? Well, there's a good chance we won't. If we don't attend classes, if we belittle the professors, and commit any number of other, like if we break the rules for campus behavior, et cetera, et cetera. So many reasons why we could be expelled and not access the power that is actually there. So there's both. There's Krishna's mercy, and then there's our endeavor. We can't get Krishna by our endeavor alone. We need his mercy also. But our endeavor is to make ourselves as eligible as possible for Krishna's mercy. Then it's up to him. Is that all right? Okay, anyone else like to elaborate on that question? It's a very good question. Nope. Okay, so that way Krishna's name can be that powerful, and yet we have to be attentive. All right, and we'll stop there. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Mahaprasad ki jai. Mahaprasade Govinde Namah Vaishnave Swadhyaya Rajan